It's Sunday, January 30th here at the West End Gun Club. Decided last minute to come out to the range. I woke up kind of early this morning and I decided to head out here since I was already up. Was going to take Wednesday off to run through the NRL22 February Course of Fire, but since I'm out here on Sunday, I'm going to go ahead and run through it today. Need to clean out the contents container anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and sort of get some stuff rearranged in there, get the targets ready and set them up, lay them all out, and we'll start shooting. I wanted to do a couple things with the chrono if I have some time, so maybe I'll do it beforehand. And then we'll go ahead and run through the February 2022 NRL22 Course of Fire. Before I get started running through the February 2022 NRL22 Course of Fire, I wanted to try out the Labradar this morning because Labradar came out with some new firmware and a new app, or new revision to their phone app, and it's supposed to improve the Bluetooth connectivity. And that's the one thing when they came out with the app, I really didn't have any good results with it. It was constantly disconnecting. And frankly, I don't care for Bluetooth. I know everyone's like, oh, I want a Bluetooth app for the Labradar. And I'm thinking, what do you need one for? You got a screen right there. It doesn't really mean anything to have an app. And when they came out with the app, I was just, I had some issues with it. And even then, it didn't really offer any extra features to me. And I said, why would I bother using the app, the phone app? Anyway, they came out with an updated app and I wanted to check it out. And it looks like they changed the design a little bit. And then I don't know, you can't see it on screen, but if you have a Labradar, check it out. You'll probably have to update your firmware. They came out with 2 minor point releases late in 2021, which I assume were to account for this. So or account for this new phone app. And right now I'm just about to try to connect it. Connecting, data transmission in progress. It's connected, and so we're good to go. So I have a new series already set up, and you can control the Labradar from your phone if you're into that thing. I really don't know why people need to have their phones. I don't know. Everybody's in love with their phone. I get it. I use my phone all the time too, work, personal stuff. But at the same time, you can have some disconnect between your other devices. I don't know. People are into that thing. They want that full-on holistic environment or whatever. So we'll see how it goes. But I set up my series, and if you go into the series, it gives you the readouts there, and then we'll see if my Labradar works. And I have my magneto speed set up too. I'm gonna run through some leftover ammo or leftover magazines from the match last week. It's a little windy today. It's about 7-mile-an-hour winds, probably hitting up to 10, but compared to last week, this is a blessing. If you saw the match coverage from last week's match where we had like 25-plus-mile-an-hour winds, that was no joke. And if you're shooting that, I think it's a good experience because after that, you don't really care when it's a little bit windy because like, wow, at least it's not as bad as that, that one day I shot in 25-plus-mile-an-hour winds with the rimfire. Anyway, I'm going to reorient the camera, and then maybe you can see the phone while I'm doing this. Hang on one sec. I had to turn off the auto lock feature on the phone. So one thing here is that this app does not disable auto lock. So they probably need to add that feature in their leverage the API, because I know the iPhone will let apps do that. I think we can arm it from here. Can we arm it from here? See, Bear with me here. I'm trying to figure out this app. I thought you could arm it from here, because I'm currently connected. Here's my series. Maybe? Thought I could arm it. I guess not. Bear with me here. I'm brand new to this new app, so I guess you can't arm it from here. Huh, weird. Thought you could. There used to be a button where you could arm it, but I'll go and arm it from here. If somebody knows, let me know. Anyway, this is a clean barrel. I cleaned it from the last time I was out, so I'm just gonna throw some rounds down range. I'm reusing an old target that I found in the Conus container. It's got some shots on it, but I'll go ahead and just put some rounds on a dot that's already used. So here we go. And it looked like the magnetospeed didn't, or sorry, the Labradar didn't pick up my round. Okay. And the magnetospeed didn't either. Shot error. That's weird. And I'm way off my windage here? Where's my round? There it is. Okay, there it is. The Labradar picked it up, so 1074. .1074 compared to 1079 on the magnetospeed. 1079 versus 1084. .1075 versus 1082. So we got about roughly a 4 to 5 feet per second difference between, well, no more than that. Yeah, 1075, 87, 7 feet per second difference here between the two. 1081 versus 1086, it's a 5 foot per second difference. 1081 versus 1077, 6 foot per second difference. So the Labradar picks up slightly slower than the magnetospeed consistently. That was high. 1092, 1099. It's a 7 foot per second difference. 1077 versus 1082, that's 5 foot per second difference. 1067 versus 1070, that's a 3 foot per second difference. 1083 versus 1090, that's 7 feet per second difference. 9 rounds picked up, which is correct. Let's burn through 10 more rounds here. So, I mean, again, why do I need this phone? I mean, I got the display right there in front of my face. I guess if you're, for some reason, you're shooting in a position where with your Labradar, or your Labradar's in a vertical position above you, on a, floating on a tripod or something, I guess you would use your phone, but I really don't see the benefit of the phone app. I mean, maybe it gives you, I think when you're reviewing shots, it's going to be stored on your phone, so it might give you an advantage there to just be able to look it on the phone. .1057 versus 1061, 4 foot per second. Velocities are going up and down for some reason. Barrel could just be seasoning right now. 1060 versus 1064. .1077 versus 1082. 1075 versus 1080. So I would say it was average of 4 to 5 foot per second difference between the Labradar and the magneto speed, where the Labradar is reading slower. That one pick up? I think it did. Yeah, it did. 1075 to 1082. $10.56, 1060, 4 foot per second. 1073 versus 1078. $10.56 versus 1060. 1065 versus 1070. 1064 versus 1066. Interesting. That should be out. That's it. Anyway, that's that. See here. I guess let's review these. So oh, there it is. There's a disarm button there. Where that came up. So series. If I go to series, it's not there. If I go to last shot. Oh, if you got to go to last shot, then you can do arm. Okay. There you go. Interesting. So this is just a review, but you go to last shot to go to the last series, then you can hit the arm button. So it has the latest data. If you go to last shot, looks like at 41.9 power factor, which I don't really care. I put my I don't think you can see it on screen, to be honest, because it might not be in focus, but we're looking at 1071 average with a 40 gram projectile, 1092 highest, 1056 lowest with a 42, what's that, PF average? Power factor average, okay. So we have a 9.8 standard deviation with a 35.98 extreme spread. Yeah, cool. So off camera, I ran another lot of Lapua NRX just to get some data, and I had both the Labradar main node speed set up and then the phone app connected, but then the phone app just disconnected while it was in the string. It was still working on the Labradar, but the phone was disconnected in the middle of it, and so I don't know what happened. I had to like sort of cycle the app a little bit just to get it to reconnect because it was failing to reconnect, but I got it back on. So that's kind of exhibits what I was experiencing with the prior release of the Labradar phone app. I'm not a fan of Bluetooth. Again, I just think they use low power Bluetooth connectivity, whatever modules they use. I just feel like in general it's finicky, especially when you got it in a unit that has a radar sensor in there. It's throwing radar waves and receiving it. I know they're probably operating at different frequencies, but at the same time, you get interference because I don't know if any of you use Macs, but it's notorious on like the Mac Mini where the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, they have interference. So if you're running the Wi-Fi adapter and you have Bluetooth devices, sometimes the Bluetooth will like sort of disconnect or have some connectivity issues because you have the Wi-Fi turned on. I mean, Bluetooth in general, I'm not a fan of. I mean, like one of the few things I use are AirPods, and those surprisingly work well. Anyway, I digress. Still have some issues, but if you have a Labradar, go ahead and download the new app and the updated firmware and see how it works for you, if you're into that thing. But I personally don't care that it doesn't really work all that great because I don't use the phone app with the Labradar. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the NRL22 February 2022 Course of Fire. There's a lot of 22s or 2s in that sentence. The first stage of fire we're going to run through is called Love is a Battlefield. February, so I'm guessing they're going with some kind of Valentine's Day theme. 120-second part time, 10 rounds. We've got 3 banks of targets. We have the 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch KOL at 45. We've got a 2-inch target at 75, and a 2.5 inch and a 3 inch on a double hanger at 92. You're going to start standing, rifle and all gear in hand, mag in action open. On the start signal, the shooter will take a position on the 55-gallon barrel and engage the targets from small to large, which is near to far, with 1 shot each. The shooter will then transition to the top of the stacked cinder blocks and engage the targets from large to small with 1 shot each. So basically, you're going to work your way back, transition, work your way to front. Pretty simple. That's a good way to go because if you decide to adjust your parallax or if you decide to adjust your elevation knob, you'll be on the same target when you transition, and then you'll work your way backwards. Personally, I'm not going to dial. I will most likely adjust my parallax. I won't dial elevation, I'll adjust my parallax. But yeah, let's go ahead and run through this. I ran that twice. Once with the reason why I ran two bags. I had the Coltac D bag attached to the fore end, and then this Schmedium, which I just acquired. This is the Armageddon Gear Schmedium Game Changer, which is just their medium Game Changer, which is pretty large, to be honest. Anyway, I ran both of those because I had the intent of using this to support the buttstock, but when I got into this position, basically this was useless from a prone position, and you're not going to be able to shoot the ground level KYL from a prone position, at least effectively. So I decided just to run the Schmedium bag. You notice I didn't run my mega bag. I'm trying to see if I can run without a mega bag and just shoot kind of the single bag situation, or rather just the support bag, and just using my own body, kind of trying to keep my body still. I just want to practice that methodology because I know a lot of people do that. for PRS, and they don't bother to use a big bag. So I'm trying that out, and it worked pretty well. I did miss the KOL initially. Did I miss the KOL? I missed the small KOL, I think, and then I made a bad hole for some reason at the 100 or the 100 yard or 92 yard target. So I'm dropped 2. But basically, I just ran a medium to support the rifle. Then when I switched to the cinder block, I ran the bipod, and I shot from a quasi-sitting position. I think that's probably the way to go, to be honest, for most people. Granted, I am smaller, like shorter than most people. So, I don't know. Using the bipod, you may have to go taller on your bipod than I did, but you should be able to use the bipod and then just shoot a sitting position. And with the angle we have here, even on this range, you should be able to do it. You might have to cock cant your body over to shoot the elevated position at a 92 and a 75, but it's a 92-75. Yeah, 92-75. So that's how I would shoot it at this range. Outside of that, relatively straightforward. Just use holds, in my opinion. I think I had listed here 0.9 and 1.3, and I was actually holding a little bit higher for 100. I think I made a bad hold on the smaller target, but it is what it is. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the next stage. Next stage of fire is called I Hope I Don't Miss, 120-second part-time, 10 rounds. We have 2 banks of targets, total of 3 targets though. We have a 1.5 inch and a 1 inch at 57 yards and a 5 inch at 100 yards. It's interesting points though, because you get 10 points per impact for the near target, so the 57 yards, and 8 points per impact on the far target. 100 points possible. Here's how it goes. You're going to start standing, rifle on gain or hand, mag in action open. On start signal, the shooter will take a prone, supported position, and engage the near targets with 1 shot each, alternating between the 2 targets, starting with the large, then the small. If the shooter misses, they must impact the far target twice before returning to the near target. Here's the catch. All shots are support side, which means you shoot from the opposite side of the gun using your opposite hand and opposite eye. I once saw someone try to shoot support side. They were a right-handed shooter and they were left-handed, but they were trying to shoot left eye, but then use their right hand. You can't do it that way. You got to use opposite hand, opposite arm, opposite shoulder, opposite eye. Pretty straightforward in that if you don't miss, so you have to stay on the near target in order to maximize your points. If you miss, then it actually starts to cascade down, because you lose 10 points from a miss, then you're losing 4 points because you have to hit 2 8s, two shots in a row at the 2 times, or 2 shots in a row, or is it twice? Just twice. So you basically lose 4 points, assuming your next 2 shots on the 100-yard target are hits. Then you come back to the near one. So ideally, just shoot. Take your time, because I mean you got 120 seconds. It's not like a bonus stage for extra time. So just get in position, lock in, get your parallax or whatever all set up, and your diopter set for your left eye or your opposite eye, and you should be fine. And take your time. That's my only opinion there. I mean, it's 57 yards, 1 inch and 1/2 inch. Anyway, let's go ahead and try it myself. We'll see how it goes.
Barely nicked it.
I'm losing my parallax here because my eye relief is not correct. So I barely nicked one shot, but I was a hit. Finished at 90 seconds elapsed, so could go slower. I think the problem here is if you might get into this like kind of rhythm, losing the bag. I think taking a little bit more time to adjust your bag so you're locked in is better. I left myself slack on the bipod so I can change elevations or so I can change my angle because the 100-yard target is a little bit higher. I would say it's about 10 feet higher in elevation than the 57-yard target. So I left myself slack on the bipod so I can engage the 100-yard target. Probably should be less, or I should just stack my, reorient my bag slightly, but just take more time to adjust the bag and make sure it's in a position that I like that stays locked in. That probably be the key thing. And then making sure that you're up on the gun, because I have this tendency right now with my support side that I'm floating back, so my eye's farther back than it should be. Take the time to shoulder up, get on the scope, and then make sure I'm on, because as I was cycling the bolt, and I was finding my head drifting back, and that's why I nicked one shot on this target. So just make sure you just go through the numbers, rhythm, the cadence, make sure that you got all the fundamentals set before you break your shot. You can spend a little bit of time, but I say spend the time initially before you take your first shot. Make sure you're good to go. I mean, obviously don't take all day, but spend that extra few seconds to make sure you're in a good position, your head's locked in the right spot, and then you know that you can repeat that consistently. Then this should be no problem. It should be a relatively straightforward stage. If you miss, oh well, don't panic. Just adjust, make your 2 hits at 100 and move back to the 57. But I think the key thing is making sure you don't miss, so you don't have to worry about transitioning from near to far and back to near. Anyway, that's it for this stage. Let's move on to the next one. Next stage we're going to run through is called Is This Love? 120-second part time, 10 rounds. This is the bonus stage, so you get extra bonus points for any extra time you have left on the clock. Less than 120. We have 3 banks of targets, 5 targets total. At 53 yards, we have a 1-inch and a 2-inch. 73 yards, we have a 2.5-inch. And at 93 yards, we have a 3 and a 4-inch. So basically 53, 73, 93, 20 yards increments. 1, 2, 2.5, 3, and 4. You're going to start standing, rifle and all gear in hand, mag in action open. On the start signal, shoot and engage each target with 1 shot from large to small, far to near, from prone supported. Once the smallest target has been engaged, the shooter will engage the targets from small to large, near to far. So basically, you're going to go far, near, near, far. Pretty straightforward. Not much else to say here. Just know you're dope. Let's run through this. Finished with 76.41 elapsed, so plenty of time. Pretty straightforward. I misdid my dope. I was actually good thing good thing shooting the large target first. I was off by 1/10 of a mil. Made my adjustments from there, so I was able to get a solid hit on the smallest target at 100 yards, or 93 yards rather. So I did my offsets wrong. Anyway, because I'd set my 0 to 0.2. I set to 210 so I can have it set for the close targets at 53 yards immediately. Just put the crosshairs onto the dot, and then holdovers for the others. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. It's really easy. No big deal. I mean, the only difficulty here for this range is always, if anybody who hasn't shot at the West End Gun Club or Fire Range before, we're shooting at elevated positions. So even the 53 yard I have set up right now, it's kind of on a berm, so it's not even flat, on flat ground, level to the rifle or the shooter. I'm waiting for my new rangefinder to come in so I can get angles, but it's got to be at least 30 or 40 feet elevated position at the 93 yards. So we're shooting elevated position. That's the only big deal here. So you have to adjust your bag accordingly, your rear bag support, so you can adjust the angle of your gun. But it's a pretty straightforward stage. Every other range that has a flat range should be really simple. No real tips here. Just know your dope and know your holdovers, and just take your time. Just don't miss, and you'll be good. Let's move on to the next stage. Next stage we're running through is called the Stairway to Love or Hate. 120-second part time, 10 rounds. We'll have one target. It's a 2.5 inch at 69 yards. You're going to start standing, rifle and all gear in hand, mag in action open. On start signal, the shooter will engage the target with one shot from each ladder rung, starting with the highest rung the shooter can reach. And then shooter will work down and up the ladder, then back down until all rounds have been fired. So basically start at the highest one you can reach and then just keep alternating, going down, up, down, up. Pretty straightforward. It's just an exercise in establishing positions. People may time out because depending if you're a newer shooter, how long it takes you to reset. So this is basically an exercise on establishing positions as fast as possible. So that's what you should probably do in your practice session, is how fast can you establish a position and break off a good shot, because that's what this is basically doing for you. Anyway, let's go ahead and get set up here and run through this stage. I finished with 109.44 laps, so I had just over 10 seconds left. Definitely moving briskly, so you've gotta be ready to go. Get in. Once you're on target, break a clean shot and move. So it's not much time to sort of dilly-dally. I don't know what else to say. Be deliberate in your movements. Don't dwell on it too long. Once you get in your position, break, shot, and move. Break, shot, and move. Just if it takes you forever to get established, it's just something you need to practice. That's basically this is the kind of stage that you'll do. So if you have a ladder at home in your garage, or bring a ladder inside your house, put a little paster dot on the wall, and just try to do that. Get in position, move every ladder. Just break a dry fire shot, move, break a dry fire. See how long it takes you, because you want to get comfortable. Find the good body position such that you can get established, lock in, pull, and go. You notice I didn't use the mega bag for this stage. Again, I wanted to see if I can just do it without the bag, and it seems like I'm actually moving faster without the mega bag, because once I get in, I'm rotating the bag into position, trying to manipulate the bag, break a shot, and go. At least with this way, you keep things simple. All I'm doing is essentially getting my rifle in position. Try not to bang my scope. Lock in, square my body up, get two equal positions. My legs kneeling, so they're kind of equal support. And then once I'm in there, find target, lock in, kind of wedge my rifle with my support hand against the side of the ladder. Find my target. Try not to influence the gun too much, and break the shot. Pull, go, pull, go. That's basically my methodology for this stage. Not much else to say here. Just practice, practice, practice on getting in position, breaking a shot, a good shot, and then moving. Anyway, let's move on to the last stage of fire that we're going to run through in this course of fire. The last stage of fire we're running through is called Marty's Bucket of Hearts, 120-second part time, 12 rounds. We only have one target. It's a 3-inch at 71 yards. So this looks like an interesting stage of fire because we only have this 5-gallon bucket. This is on. You're going to start standing, rifle and all gear in hand, mag in action open. On start signal, the shooter will engage the target with 3 shots from the following positions off the 5-gallon, or on the 5-gallon bucket. On, off. On the 5-gallon bucket. Bucket upside down, opening facing down. Bucket on its side. Didn't say what the side meant, so it could either be this way or this way. Bucket upside down, and then bucket back on its side. So you're going to do 3 shots in this orientation, 3 shots on the side, 3 shots back upside down, 3 shots. Total 12. We've done this before. I think PRS often will do this with a barrel, the 55-gallon barrel. It'll be interesting to do this with just a small bucket. But we'll see how this goes. I got to think about this for a second. This stage is actually going to be pretty difficult for people that attend our venue at the West End Gun Club. You're shooting elevated position. If you were shooting normal flat range, you could probably get away with prone. Maybe. I'm not entirely sure. You might be able to get away with prone, and you might be able to get away with using your bipod on here in both positions. Because you'll be able to put your weight on, and from kind of like a sitting position or like a squat position or a leaning forward position on your knees and sort of your butt, not prone. But I think there's a lot more versatility, a lot easier ways to shoot this, I think, on flat ground off this bucket, I feel like. Wow, there's a dent in that thing. Probably got cracked when we had those winds. But for this range, shooting at elevated position about 30 feet above level, 20 feet, I don't know. It's got a good angle. I shot it like this. I'd even dry run it before I recorded this camera, or sorry, I didn't like do a run off camera. I actually ran that straight up after I just looked at it a little bit and kind of got my my rifle in there. But I ran my bag like this, my medium bag on its side, which allowed me to shoot a sitting position from here. And I think a lot more people will probably have, I mean, I'm pretty short, so I can get into this position and I can sit down and get down onto the gun from this position pretty easily, but taller folks probably won't be able to do that. You may have to use a bipod, assuming your bipod feet will fit. I could do it here with this thing because the SkyPod is cool like that, I guess. And I can easily just get my bipod there and I can shoot a more comfortable sitting position. This might be the way to go if you got a SkyPod. If you're taller than me, you can just get into a position, get your feet on there. If assuming you can set the legs up, but this is kind of why easier might be with a bag. But anyway, you get my point. If you're tall, you can get on there and shoot at the elevated position from the sitting position. The only thing that's going to slow you down though is you're going to have to get into a prone position. That's how I shot it here. So I went from sitting and I shot off the side prone. I thought about shooting it like this, although this might actually might work for some people. The only problem I feel is this is going to go, it's going to tilt side to side. It's going to be an unsafe condition. We'll probably watch shooters when they do this, have someone on one side to make sure it doesn't tip over and they dump their gun on one side. This is probably the best way to go, even though the barrel is, or the bucket is tapered and your gun is going to slide. I think this is the best way to go. You can kind of get your bipod in there. Shoot. Sorry, my legs are there. Get those out there for a second here. I got my gun down. I was able to just sort of wedge it up here, have the back for rear support, hold in position and fire. My mag's out, and I was able to do it from here. Then I just switched back to a sitting position. And I think that was good enough for me. It was really stable for both sides. And I finished with 97.44 elapsed, which means I had more than 20 seconds left. And I thought I was moving relatively slow. But you know, given that I was literally changing positions from like a sitting to a prone, back to sitting, back to prone, and still got off all my shots within time, I think this will work. Anyone coming to the match you'll want to set up a bucket and at least a 10-15 degree incline. See how you're going to shoot this from both positions. Open class, obviously you have a lot more flexibility. I was able to move my bipod to the fore end as opposed to the spigot, kind of squeezed it in there so I have this kind of barricade stop off the SkyPod to pull into the bucket, pull the rifle towards me, kind of lock the bucket so it's not going to kind of roll, and my gun I had to support it so it wouldn't slide off the bucket's edge, or sides rather. Other than that, this is probably going to be a difficult stage, at least for this venue. I don't know about other venues, but this is going to be difficult for our venue. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and clean up. I got some stuff left over from the last match, and I'm just feeling lazy right now. I'll do a little bit of cleaning, not all the cleaning I planned on doing in the Conus container. But overall, this is a pretty straightforward course of fire. There's only four. You only got bucket, cinder blocks, ladder, and barrel. That's it. Not many props to, I mean props. You got 2 pro stages and 3 prop stages. So this one should be a pretty beginner to intermediate match for this Course of Fire. So it should be a good match for beginners to show up to. Anyway, let me go and get cleaned up, and we'll wrap up this range session. Pretty much cleaned up everything, brought in all the targets and put away all the props. Just gonna lock up the contents container and then load up all my gear, which you see here, plus my chronographs over there. This Course of Fire seems pretty straightforward. I figure it's a beginner to intermediate difficulty for NRL22. So if you're pretty new, this should be a pretty good match to go to at wherever your venue is, as far as NRL22 matches are. This medium game changer works okay. For some reason, I thought it would be a little bit smaller. It's almost as big as the OG. I don't have an OG here. I only have an OG in Cordura. I don't even have a wax canvas, but this is the medium and wax canvas, and here's my pint size, the Area 419 version and wax canvas. There's less fill in this one. I would probably put more fill in here. I think I can, and then lessen the fill in this, and might help me appreciate it a little bit more. I think it could use a little bit less fill than what's in here right now, just slightly. But it worked for today. I was able to run it as my only bag, aside from this D bag, the Coltac D bag, which I use on the ladder stage. Medium seems to work. I don't know. I bought it because I don't have a medium and I wanted to see if it's any better. And I don't know. I really can't say. I'll use it a few more times and we'll see how it goes. As far as SHOT Show is concerned, if you haven't been paying attention to my website, I did post 4 segments so far in my after action report. In the years I've been going to SHOT Show, like the week after, I always post a series of articles because there's just too much to talk about. And I don't even focus on everything, right? I pick a few things that I saw, which is several things I saw at SHOT Show that I wanted to mention. And you know, it's not a full breadth. I know a couple years ago people complained I covered a lot of rimfire and I didn't cover like PSA. Frankly, I don't care about PSA. They came out with a bunch of stuff that were kind of cool, right? But like I can't even get them, so you know I'm not really going to cover that. I did cover, you know, every now and then I'll cover something that was just cool that I can't get in California, for just for interest. But like I didn't go to PSA. I didn't really care. They came out with a bunch of civilian-made semi-auto versions of some guns that we can't get because they're full auto, but now they made them semi. Anyway, I'm just using that as an example. So if you go read my articles, I cover like various things that I saw, just my perspective. I try to give an honest opinion and not just a rehash of like what other people have said, right? I give my own like feedback on that. Like there was like these new scopes from Canada, which haven't been released yet, from Apex Optics, which I covered that. And I just, I got specs and I just gave my opinion hands-on. Granted, I didn't get to fire it on range day because I don't go to range day. So I don't know what it looks like, but like behind the glass and on a gun and actually shooting it. But I give my opinion on that. And other things like the new Kestrel shot timer, which is going to be coming out in March, go read my article. You're going to want to get one. It's $300. It's over twice as much as the CED 7000. But when you see what the Kestrel KST 1000 shot timer can do, you're going to want one. I'm getting one for myself for matches and stuff. It's light years ahead of what we're seeing with this stuff in the Pocket Pro 2. Anyway, check out my SHOT Show articles. I still have a few more segments to post because there's a few more things I wanted to talk about. And the overall tone of the show, just to summarize it here, while the wind is still blowing at me. SHOT Show, there were less people there. There were less exhibitors there. I mean, less in the sense that several big names weren't there. Everybody knows SIG wasn't there, but CZ wasn't there, Vortex wasn't there, Beretta, Benelli, Savage Arms, which is now separate from the parent company it was part of. I can't remember the name. ATK? I don't remember. Anyway, there were several companies that weren't there. Swarovski wasn't there. Things like that. But I mean, I would say like at least 90% of the show was still there. 95% of the show was still there in the grand scheme of things. There were less people there. I will give you that. It felt like I did not have to stand, like when you're walking down, if you've ever been to any convention, right? You'll end up going down an aisle, right? And there's people stopped on this end, and some guy with like a huge cart of stuff is just like slowing down the middle and he'll stop and look. That did not happen this year, which is amazing. I love that. But there were less people. It was noticeable in the mornings because usually when you go in the mornings, it's always like everybody's just sitting there because they open right at 08:30. and they have all the people working the show. They're like stopping you. Oh, you don't have an exhibitor badge. You can't go in yet. There were people lined up on day one, but once you got in, it was just, for a good solid 2 hours, it wasn't really very packed. Same with the morning of day 2 and day 3. It wasn't very packed in the main, like the second level of the show. First level of the show, it felt packed because they keep those aisles smaller, but in general, it was less people. I will, sorry, there's a car going by. I think SHOT Show was fine. People say it was probably a little bit more boring than other shows. I think it was better than I'll have to look back in my archives, but there was one show where I literally left after the second day. The third day of the morning, I just got up, packed up with my gear. I think I went to the show just to grab some free swag and left. That's how bad that show was. I think it was a trend when ARs had just pretty much saturated the market. It's all everyone did, and we're like, what else can we do besides AR-15s? There was really nothing out there. So that was probably the worst show. I don't know if that was like 2014. I'll have to look back. But anyway, this was better than that. My friend, my gunsmith, he also made the comment that he was pretty much done in 2 days and there wasn't much there for him. And I figure that's probably going to be the thing, because there was new stuff, but at the same time, everyone's still dealing with supply chain stuff, and everyone's just trying to keep their manufacturing continuing. I mean, I haven't seen a TKT-1X at a dealer in months, several months. So, I mean, why would they release new stuff when they can't even get current product out? So, as far as new stuff, there was new stuff, but nothing revolutionary. But in the trend of firearms, what else new can we do? There are a lot of new optics out there. You know, ZCO came out with their new 840. Vortex wasn't there, but I did see it at the CS Tactical booth. They had the new 636 there. So it's new optics coming out. Very few new firearm stuff worthwhile. But, you know, that's the nature of SHOT Show. Anyway, I digress. Read my articles, ocapj.net. Go check out my website. You'll read those. I'll release another one on Monday, I think. But I got to cut this vlog, so maybe I won't have Monday, maybe Tuesday, whatever. I'll have a few more segments released. But some good information there. Anyway, that's it for today. I'm going to pack up this gear, get out of here. Our next match, I think, is February, whatever that fourth Sunday of February is, 26 or 27. I don't have my phone here, so I can't look at the calendar. But that's our next one. It's Sunday, so we're back to normal schedule. Our last match was on Saturday. We're back to Sundays. One thing about the match, one of the competitors who comes on occasion, he asked me if I'd be willing to stay a little bit after, that he can do some kind of coaching instruction for people, because he notices a lot of new people do things wrong, and he's willing to stay behind after the match to just do a few pointers. And I'm willing to do that. So assuming he shows up to that match on February, I will have a target array set up, just left out there. We're going to clean up, obviously, after the match, and we'll do our debrief, match results, etc. And I'll close it out, and I'll let people go with him and do some little instructional stuff, and I'll have a couple targets out there for you to shoot on as reference while he's showing you certain pointers about position, bag placement, etc. So that'll be happening in February at the February match. So if you're new, you want to try a beginner match, this should be a good course of fire. And if you want to stay behind a little bit for like an hour or so, maybe less than an hour, and get some pointers about positionals and bag usage and whatnot, that will happen after that match. Anyway, that's it for today, January 30th, Sunday here at the West End Gun Club. Thanks for watching. See you in the next vlog.